Somewhere in the infinite universe, it was the night before Christmas. An incredible number of creatures were stirring, including a superstitious lot of humans. Or at least humans who'd long since hollowed out all but their skin for their cause. And even then, their skin was powdered, pressed, and dyed by saintly forces to cull the embers of identity. Dressed in knitted pink, the weird cult grooved and sang strange mess carols.
Soon,
they declared suddenly.
O fractured one, your forthcoming looms.
Long into the night they partied, dancing on and on through the blissful night. Few ceased to stop, even as the king in red descended from his sleigh, tailing ghosts in his wake. The Red King examined the names of those present from a long, likely infinite list that he kept in his pocket. To his dismay, many of the names began to fade. Few gifts were passed out by the Red King, and the rest were given coal. Then he left, continuing his annual procession across the night sky. The Red King wasn't surprised to suddenly see what looked like a boy sitting by his side. The boy was gawking at him through mismatched eyes, and the Red King simply nodded in respect.
"What an awful bunch down there,"
said the Red King. "They neglected to give you a sacrifice," said what seemed to be a boy.
"No matter. I doubt those dolls of Xylas can offer anything else."
The boy nodded knowingly. From his pocket, he drew a simple wheat biscuit and a carrot for the great beast that drew the Red King's sleigh. "Then it'll be mine to give." The Red King laughed as he took the sacrifice, pocketing the carrot for later and consuming the biscuit in one go.
"Ho, ho, ho,"
declared the Red King. A long way away, although close by if you know the routes between rainbows, was a palace of ice. It stood over a great plateau, a great pit on one side and a frosted lake on the other. It was a land climate change and greenhouse gases underwent hypothermic death. Inside was a vast throne room of winter in which stood two individuals, for you wouldn't consider the two guards standing by as more than scenery. The Queen of Snowflakes, Emil Snigdorin, or Emily for short, a small name considering she had many, sat upon her throne. Thin as frost, she nursed a secretive smile and watched her child toying with a small wooden spaceship. The child demanded that the Red King come, and Emily eventually relented. And so, she set out a sacrifice of a Viking she'd kept on ice. While the Red King technically was no longer, and in a tiresome, strange, metaphysical way, never Odin, for the All-Father was a terrible man who she wedded for power, such a sacrifice would do better than milk and cookies. The night pressed on and Emily sent her child to bed. Now alone in her throne room, the fractured mirror at one side, Emily did nothing but gape at the horizon. Suddenly she was joined by someone new, with a familiar face, but was undoubtedly not who the face resembled. They were too old, despite their soft appearance, probably old enough to irritate death, if she were petulant enough instead of patient.
"Who are you?"
Emily declared. Her guards were missing. Did she send them away? She couldn't recall, but their absence unnerved her. The boy spoke. "Do you love your child?" The nerve of this intruder.
"Yes,
Ordered Emily.
by the frost of my fingertips, I do."
"Then beware of mistletoe, or apples, or..." His voice trailed. "Just beware of the unremarkable." Then the boy left. Emily didn't kill him, despite her desires to, for that lingering familiarity held back the tides of hatred and stayed her hand. The Oracle Autumn sat alone in a dark room, watching destiny unfold before her. The damp cellar of her castle encompassed her like the seas of her birth. Nothing surprised her, not even as a parody of her twin entered her chambers. They said nothing to each other, for all they could say was known to the Oracle, so the twin parody came close and kissed her on the cheek. Autumn cupped one of her hands against his and held it close. Despite him being a genetic horror, his form making no distinction from sweat, scales and clothing, Autumn couldn't help but see it as family. They shared Christmas gifts and drank hot cocoa in silence. Inside the Emperor's flight deck, Toon was alone. Rapunzel was in her bedroom, recovering from a recent mermaid attack, so Toon was left to his own devices. He busied himself by checking the Emperor's vital systems. He examined the nearest monitor and read the local time and date, December 24th, 2023. Suddenly he heard a knock at the door. Toon jumped and turned unsteadily towards it. "Entra, tell me who's there," said Toon. The Entra was silent, too shocked to transcribe what it saw. Toon prepared himself, a victim of curiosity, and he unlocked the door. Before himself stood an imposter, a disgusting mockery of himself. Its features only vaguely resembled his own, warping and shifting constantly like the oceans of his home. "Name yourself," he demanded. The horror before Toon smiled and said, "I am a spectre of your blood, the Undine of myth, or at least the implication of the myth. I think." The Undine let out a cry as it began to melt. "You lack genetic cohesion," Toon began, adding little to the situation, but struggling to find anything else to say. "Simple template projected here and now." "For what purpose? What are you here for?" The Undine was struggling now, unable to move as it slowly began to dissolve. "Merry Christmas and good luck with the new year." And then the terror faded away and vanished. Toon sensed it flickering back to whatever time and place it originated from, but he couldn't exactly place where. Toon stared for a while, and then he closed the door behind him and locked it tight.